And welcome back to a fresh episode of the Business Growth Show. Excited to be joined by Rebecca O'Brien today. Rebecca is a certified stress management and burnout prevention coach, mindfulness instructor, a nutritionist, and a former sales and marketing exec. She helps IT executives prevent burnout and create sustainable success. Rebecca, a very warm welcome. How are you doing?
Hey Sam, how's it going?
Good, thank you. And yourself?
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
All good, cheers. Really looking forward to this, Rebecca. Like I was saying
Yeah.
before we hit record, this is a fresh topic for the show. We've
Mm,
talked a lot about business growth. We talked a lot about sales, a lot about marketing strategies, but we really haven't talked about kind of pushing yourself to the limit. And I think it's a really timely one. I was actually thinking to myself earlier, as I've
yeah.
found myself the last few days, the last few weeks, just being in non-stop Zoom calls, non-stop Skype calls,
Mhm.
and then going to my email, realizing I've got almost 3 to 4 pages full of email, and thinking if I don't clear these emails out today, I'm just going to have probably about 6 pages of email
Yeah.
by tomorrow, and really getting quite stressed at times. Especially
Yeah.
when working from home, and you've got limited places to go when it's COVID and such. So, how
Mm,
we can avoid burnout in business is going to be the topic of conversation today,
yeah.
Rebecca. I think it's really timely. I'm sure you're going to have some awesome insights to help us with. So, I want to jump straight into it, really, and
Yeah.
really talk about what are some of the symptoms, some of the signs that we need to be aware of, that we could be close to burnout.
Mm, yeah. I think just like you said, Sam, with everything going on this year, a year that we have been through, really coming up to the holidays now. I know many were celebrating Thanksgiving last weekend and then coming up to Christmas at the moment. It's a lot. We are all dealing with a lot. There is a lot of stress or anxiety showing up. And this is great just to become aware because it really all starts with self-awareness when it comes to burnout, and was definitely something that I was missing myself, through working my career, but also then finally being diagnosed with burnout. But what I'd like to flag up is really the four, categories of symptoms and what they can look like, because it's emotional, cognitive symptoms, physical symptoms, and behavioral.
Okay.
And how emotional can really show up. Now, this is going to be different for everyone. There's lots of ways that this can show up in just in burnout. The emotional ones can look like, irritation, mood swings, feeling overwhelmed, feeling worthless. The behavioral ones now, they can also, especially coming up to the holidays,
Hmm.
might be aware of this, but that can look like, eating more or less, kind of masking our emotions, if that is through more alcohol, can also really come up for us all in the holidays now. But it can also be with procrastination. Are you self-sabotaging? Are you getting in your own way? Nervous habits. And then cognitive symptoms, really with memory and concentration, lack of focus, having racing thoughts in at the end of the evenings when you're, trying to get to sleep, constant worry that can also show up. And then physical symptoms of aches and pains in our body, because burnout is, of course, this is mind and body, and really our stress symptom, um, stressors coming up in chronic stress over a long period of time. That's when burnout happens. But it can also look for, nausea, headaches, physical symptoms as well. The one that I really struggle with the most, and you would think I'd become aware of it, but it was really memory and focus and concentration. I was couldn't put together an email at the end. It would take me hours, and I was still working at that stage. I was still working and thinking, I'm just having a bad day or I'm having a bad week. That'll go over. And then I started to lose my hair. I had the emotional symptoms of really being on edge. Sorry. And mood swings and very isolated. I just wanted to isolate myself.
It sounds tough. And I mean,
Mm,
in your situation, Rebecca, when you had when you were getting burnout, is it something
yeah.
you knew was happening, or did it take someone to actually step in and say, look, I think this is what's going on, Rebecca,
Mm.
and these is how you can overcome it? Or was it just a case of you got to the stage where everything was too tough work wise, and then someone had to help you out? Or
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was actually completely blind to it because I was, on the fast train with my career, working in sales and marketing, have done for 15 years before that happened. I got burnt out in 2014, and unfortunately, I didn't have anyone. I didn't know anyone that had gone through burnout. I had heard of it, but I can honestly say that I thought that that was for them that weren't so resilient or weren't that strong or didn't have the drive and ambition. Because that's one thing which is, I feel bad about today because I learned my lesson and learned it the hard way. But that's another thing with burnout that you can really see. It comes up a lot with A-type personalities and
okay,
the typical person of, drive, ambition, go, 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 blinders on, and just fast train. And that was me. I was really dismissing any kind of emotions or any symptoms coming up or showing up. And this is also something to remember that it usually doesn't happen over, this is not, a 3-month period or a 6-month period and you're like, okay, I'm burnt out now. This was something coming up for me probably in the last, 15, 20 years.
got it.
Um,
So it usually builds up over some time.
it can build up over some time. And again, everyone is different. And I think that's so important to remember because as we all have different stressors and we will get stressed by different things and how our body and mind function and both resilience, um, you will also react, differently. Of some things cause me stress and some other things won't cause you stress. But at the end of the day, if you are in that situation and it is constantly a stressor and you are having and dealing with chronic stress over a longer period of time, that is when it will lead to burnout.
Makes sense. And
Mm,
Rebecca, you mentioned there was 4 signals to be aware of when it comes to burnout. So there was the
yeah.
emotional ones, there was the behavioral ones. This is
Hmm.
my, if I can read my own writing, the
Yeah.
cognitive ones and the physical ones as the 4
Yes.
types. So if we are, could it be that we get would you only get one type, or could we get a mix of all the 4? Just so we can kind of be aware of what's going on, perhaps some emotional, some cognitive, and then some physical. So getting the aches and pains as well as certain irritations, and
Yeah.
then kind of perhaps like you said, when it's late at night, we're trying to get to sleep, we're having all these things running
Mm,
through our heads because we
yeah.
can't focus, and we've got concerns about our business, about what we need to do or targets we need to hit. So is it
Mm.
typically just one, or could we get a mix of all?
It can be all 4. It can be one, it can be all 4. And it will also run in different periods of our life and really what is going on, because stressors way back when in our evolution, our system and stress, the communication through our brain and our body is, of course, this is our brain reacting to a perceived threat. They are It is wanting to protect us, and of course it's there for a reason. The problem is now is back then it was, we're out hunting or trying to find food with bears and um, trying to keep ourselves safe. And today, our stressors can be from different things: of sitting in traffic, of a deadline, of trying to running late for picking up our kids, or trying to get everything done at once at work, and juggling all these different tasks all at once. So
Yeah.
really with that is self-awareness is the biggest thing, and being aware of what is happening in your day-to-day life and what is coming up for you.
Got it. Okay.
Mm,
So on that note, Rebecca, how can we ensure that we are gaining optimal performance? So when we're doing our day-to-day job, that we are kind of putting in a good shift, or if we run a business, we're
mm,
getting maximum results for our clients, maximum sales revenue, maximum out of our marketing spend, and all that good stuff.
mm,
But we're not pushing ourselves to the limit. So perhaps to jump back to my example, where I'm recently, it feels like I've been in non-stop video calls, and then when I end the video calls, I've got non-stop email. And
yeah,
then by the time I look
yeah.
at it, it's nearly 6 p.m. and I've got to go and look after my kids. So how can we make sure that we're kind of getting best results in the business that we're doing, but not pushing ourselves too far? So like you said, we're not going to get the
Mm,
symptoms and the burnout long term and cause ourselves perhaps harm either emotionally or physically.
yeah. I mean, it really is. I can understand that with the workday, and we have targets and we want to show up, and it's performance, and we most of with businesses, entrepreneurs, professionals, wherever you're working, I completely understand that, we're here, we want, and we're striving for success. And that's absolutely fine. Work hard. There's the saying, work hard, play hard. And I was just talking to, I think it was Carrie that mentioned this, another friend of ours here on LinkedIn. And she was saying, it's about self-care hard as well. And
Hmm.
self-care is really, and I love that where she says, work hard, but self-care hard, because self-care is something I speak about so much, both with my clients and a lot of the time here on LinkedIn as well. Is it's a balance, and if you can set up practices and points within your workday where you can really have that balance of maybe booking the Zoom calls 45 minutes each one and having 5 to 10 minutes in between. um, I work through a mindful workday, as I call it, and there's a couple of tips and practices that I do with smaller breaks. To start with one of the most challenging tasks in first thing in the morning. I also will shut off, email or all notifications during certain hours of the day. And then really just to try to find practices that can support you in your work and what you are doing on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. It's something I've been trying to do more in
Mm,
terms of having days blocked out where there is just kind of meeting after meeting, and then just
yeah,
making sure you have actually got that space in there, whether it's taking some time
yeah,
out for lunch or 15 minutes in the morning or something like that. So is
mhm.
that what you mean? And I love that phrase you just said: work hard and self care hard,
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
rather than the old school one: work hard, play hard.
yeah,
Which
exactly.
but when we say self care, what does that exactly mean? Does that just mean breaking up the day, like you mentioned, Rebecca, or is there a bit more to it than that?
I mean, self-care can looks different for everyone, and it's really important to find what you need, and what will work for you. But self-care is really in connection with self-awareness. And for example, I check in with myself every day, sometimes a couple of times a day, and really just weighing out, what do I need now? How can I support myself the best to get um, to get through and really acknowledge my needs and wants right now? If that is through work, if that is through a project I'm doing, if that is creating something, that can look like through habits. It can look like we were saying, walks during the middle of the day. How can that practice really support you? I mean, people that are sitting right now in working from home one of the big things is, can you get up? Do you have a standing desk, or can you go take walk and talk meetings? Can you, do some type of movement to just break up the day and support your focus and concentration?
Sure. No, that all
Mm,
makes perfect sense. And in terms of the four signals of burnout, so the emotional, behavioral, cognitive, and the physical, um, if we feel like we're perhaps getting close to burnout, or feeling
mm.
pretty tired, we're feeling pretty stressed in what we're doing, is there different ways to treat each of the four signals based on how you're feeling? So if we think we've got X, Y, or Z symptoms, is there different ways that we can say, look, this is I've got a lack of focus, like you mentioned.
Yeah,
I'm struggling to write things down. I'm struggling to do
yeah.
emails. Is there a certain way we can treat each one, or a certain way that we should look to attack each one, or should we seek professional help, or is there things we can do by ourselves?
There's a lot of things we can do by ourselves. And like you're saying, Sam, if that awareness is there, and I speak about self-awareness, self-mastery so much, is when you are acknowledging and understanding what is going on, either if it's, cognitive or behavioral, like we said, physical, um, you can put in practice of, okay, do I need to go out and take a 15-minute walk? Do I need to look at my habits in terms of nutrition? Am I taking care of myself? How am I sleeping every night? What am I doing to wind down every night before I go to bed? Or is there a part where I can unplug and just, take a few hours, or even at the weekend, that whole weekend, to not, be on social media or be constantly having, all technology from all forms of coming at us. But it's really of knowing, what can I do for myself, what now, and what do I enjoy?
Mm, okay. Yeah. I
Mm,
mean, on that note, should we also look at the things that, like you mentioned, are perhaps causing us harm, whatsoever it is? In my case, perhaps spending way too much time on LinkedIn. So
yeah.
constantly checking my notifications, constantly checking my messages, when I could be perhaps kind of dedicating that to other stuff,
Yeah.
whether that's business related, whether that's personal, whether that's family time. So it's understanding those things that perhaps are causing us anxiety, perhaps are wasting our time a bit too much in certain cases, and then working on those, and then working on the self-care kind of things, like you said, like whether that's taking a walk,
Yeah.
whether that's taking a break, and understanding kind of what the issues are, and then trying to attack those. Is that some of the best ways to approach it?
Yeah, I would definitely look at overall, the habits that we are creating and actually practicing each day. Um, Also with, self-care in that, and not being afraid to set boundaries. Setting boundaries is one of the parts of my program that I work with my clients on. And it's so important for both our energy and respective of all the relationships, outside, whether it's with our family or work or, colleagues, but also with ourselves, to really be able to save our energy and keep our cup full.
Mm,
Because we can't pour from an empty cup. And
so true.
all, those boundaries can work really, be really important when it comes to your time and time with yourself, to be able to give yourself a break.
Yeah. I
Mm,
mean, that's definitely something I should look at, and I'm sure a lot of people tuning in that makes sense to. So, on that note, boundaries. Do you think we should kind of set time day to day? Does it have to be kind of fixed? So, for example, like we're gonna take a break in the morning, gonna take a good break
mm,
at lunchtime, gonna make sure I've got this amount of time in between calls, and I'm gonna make sure, if I can, most days I'm done with work by 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whatever our working hours is.
mm.
Is that what it's about, or is it a bit more structured in terms of how you set up your day to day, or does it even need to be structured?
Um, yeah, I mean, you're kind of intertwining both with boundaries and, like I was saying, a mindful work day, which is great to, set practices in place. But boundaries can also, there's several types of boundaries, and it's more in time and respect for your own energy and your wants and needs, and what do you need for optimal performance, optimal wellness, and optimal health. And that comes back again, to the self-awareness, also self-love with that, of respecting that, but also respecting other people's boundaries. And
Mm.
it can be something of setting in place where you check out at the end of the day, and you have made that, both clear to yourself, but perhaps others as well, that I'm not answering emails after 7, 8 p.m. each day. um, this is where I need my time, or this is a boundary I'm going to set in place to support myself and respect myself, to do something else, or to take time out for me, because it's an energy thing of that balance again.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I
Mm,
mean, there's the old cliche sayings like your health is your wealth and healthy body,
yeah.
healthy mind. So, what kind of does our nutrition and does what we're eating and drinking affect this much, Rebecca, or is that, am I completely off the mark? Is that not really related to what we're discussing here?
No, it is for sure. Yeah. And I love that part, and I'm very passionate about nutrition and how that, supports our whole body, because I believe you are what you eat. And right now, nutrition of taking care of ourselves, and what are you putting in your body, and
Mm.
is that agreeing with you, is it supporting you, is it processed foods or extra sugars, or what is your day-to-day, nutrition look like? Because it's ultimately will support your brain and your focus and of how you are feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you the amount of times like I've had a takeaway on a Sunday evening, and
Yeah,
I'll come into work on Monday morning, get to my desk, and I feel really groggy, half asleep,
yeah, yeah.
and not really aware of what I'm doing. Whereas if I had a nice meal with, I don't know, plenty of meat and vegetables and plenty
Mm,
of water the day before on the weekend, and I've perhaps
yeah,
done a workout and I've eaten healthy, then I feel so much better, and
yeah,
I'm not just kind
yeah.
of sitting at my desk sweating away, ready for a
Mm.
snooze.
No,
Um,
that's yeah,
so
yeah.
so I guess that's something we need to kind of make a balance of, right? Understand what we're taking in and understand how it's going to affect us. And
Yeah, and really, I mean, like you're saying with food, Sam. I mean, I'm a nutritionist. I can still, enjoy some pizza, enjoy some carrot cake, whatever it is. But I have installed a habit, and love eating healthy, because I know how it supports me and what it actually does for my mind and body. And like you're saying, if I want to have that pizza on a Saturday night, I do it, but I will definitely pay for it, because I know how I will be feeling the day after.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, on that note, it's funny. Is there kind of a checklist as such that we can think about that? This might be a tough question. Where we can say, look, we need to be eating healthy, we need to be drinking right, we need
Yeah.
to be making sure we're taking enough breaks. Um, and I appreciate it's a bit of a top level view, but are there certain habits that we can say, if, as long as we're following these habits roughly, then
Mm.
we're on the right track, or is it quite different for each person? And
I think it's a great question. It is different for every person. And it's definitely, I think, different with what how are you feeling now? What are you trying to achieve? What is your everyday, diet look like? I always start off my clients where I need to see a, 4-day food diary from them,
mm,
including what they eat and drink from every hour of the day, just to have an understanding of it. But of course, I mean, if we can say eating more vegetables, really, cooking at home more, avoiding processed foods, avoiding, sugars, hidden sugars. I'm a big fan of, I wouldn't say I don't focus. I'm not a weight loss, guru, and I don't
Sure.
focus so much on this is this calories and this is this fat, and we need to calculate exactly, what you will take for entering the bodybuilding, you know, bodybuilding that you're going to do within the next 6 months. I am more of, I really focus on the ingredients, and anything that you see in the shops, I always recommend to, turn that around, whether it's a packet, whether it's just, a jar of something, whatever it is, the simplest things, and just read of what's the ingredients list, what is actually in that. Because
Yeah.
you'll be surprised of something as simple as, let's say, a gluten-free pasta, um, which can, which can have both rice flour and corn flour, and or perhaps made of something else. But there's different things that can be put in these produce, and we need to be wary of that.
Yeah. And like you say, I'm terrible. I don't want to tell you what I had for lunch because it was a mix of sandwiches, chocolate bars, a bit of fruit, and everything else I could find in the cupboards, really. But it's amazing, like you say, how much what you eat can actually affect, certainly for me, how you perform.
Yeah,
So whilst I
yeah,
might get
yeah.
a quick sugar rush from eating a bar of chocolate or whatever I wrestle up from the cupboards, but an hour later I'll feel tired, feel lethargic. So it is, like I say, really, really interesting on how what we intake, be it drink or food, can really affect the business. And it's been an interesting discussion to really understand. And you've given us some great tips on what we can take away to really understand what's going on through us in terms of our mind, what's going on through our body, what we can do in our work day, what we can eat, what we can drink to really help us perform better. And just before we wrap things up, Rebecca, is there any final takeaways that we should bear in mind to help us maintain a healthy work and life balance, and get maximum results both from ourselves in our life away from business and work, and our life in business and work?
I would really say to master your self-awareness, and really to not be afraid to check in with yourself, and really get to know yourself of what is going on in terms of both, deeper reflection of values, beliefs, your vision, your wants and needs. Because this is something that is with you, and really your driving force in all the actions that you are taking, and all the progress and goals and what you want to hit for, especially coming up with 2021. Is take some time to reflect on that, and take some time to honor that, and really get to know what you want and what you're striving for. It's really about alignment, and that's why I say, with holistically alignment, mind, body, and soul.
Rebecca, really appreciate you coming on. Thanks
Thank
very much.
you.
And for anyone that wants to learn more about yourself, anyone wants to connect with you or get in touch with you, please do tell us more about yourself, your business, and how we can learn from you.
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. Of course, I'm both Rebecca O'Brien, but my company is Wellness by Rebecca. A lot of things that we discuss now, Sam, I continuously, try to provide support and content with that, holistically, whether it's stress, burnout prevention, nutrition, and support in different, awareness and tips and tools you can use throughout every day. But otherwise, I'm just on Wellness by Rebecca, like same as my LinkedIn and my website. Social media is Wellness by Rebecca, and any questions that you have, you can contact me there.
Awesome. Rebecca, thanks once again. Really enjoyed the chat.
Thank you so much, Sam. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Cheers. And if you enjoyed the show, be sure to hit subscribe on Business Growth Show, wherever you get your podcasts, be it Apple, Spotify, YouTube. We interview business leaders each and every week to give you actionable tips to help grow your business. help increase your sales and make best use of marketing. And thanks very much for tuning in.